Those of you lucky enough to still have their lives, take them with you. However, leave the limbs you've lost. They belong to me now, except for you, Sophie. Here's your look at the new Star Ace, the Kill Bill Volume 1, The Bride, 1/6 scale collectible action figure. Star Ace is proud to present the Bride 6-scale figure from Kill Bill Volume 1. Based on the likeness of actress Uma Thurman from the film, the 6-scale figure of the Bride features interchangeable hands and a variety of accessories based on the film's references. Before we get this review underway, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the Bride stands. Taking the tape measure to the very top of what I believe to be her head, stopping right there. And according to the readout, let me provide that necessary 411 to you members of the mob. The Bride stands 10.7 inches in height, so a little over 10.5. And in centimeters, just a little under 27.5, 27.4 to be exact. Having a look at the figure's accessories, we'll start first with the display stand. Matching almost the yellow, not quite the same yellow, but matching similar enough in a color scheme, she does come included with a Kill Bill stand. As you can see, slicing bill, Kill Bill, right across from angle to angle. You've got a nice slightly offset Kill Bill font with some nice blood splattered across the side. And of course, speaking of the side, you do have that black stripe, of course, something of which she does have down the side of her jumpsuit. We'll talk about that in a second. The stand itself also has an adjustable neck with cradle clip, so the figure can stand atop of that. I don't know how I feel about the two-tone effect by using yellow and black. Part of me also kind of wishes that she would have had a yellow neck to match that of the base itself. But then I have to ask myself, is that maybe too much yellow? Yellow on yellow, and then of course you've got the yellow jumpsuit. Even though the jumpsuit itself is slightly a lighter shade, maybe it is too much yellow on yellow. So let me just pull that back a little bit, come to my senses, and maybe think now it might have been a good idea that they went a black adjustable neck instead of the yellow that I already mentioned. The other accessory she comes included with, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it, is the tiny ripped out eyeball of Killer L. Driver. Of course, played by Daryl Hannah in the film, the Bride makes short work of plucking out the one last remaining eye that Driver has and holds it in her hand shortly before dropping it to the floor and squishing it in between her toes. It's a nice little piece to come included with this. I am certainly worried about losing it, though, because it is so small. I suppose Driver's probably a little bit more concerned about losing it than I am, but still, from an accessory standpoint, it's a nice, gruesome little artifact from the movie itself. Now, luckily, she does come with one hand, this hand right here, which is suited for holding the eyeball. Sort of wedge it in between her thumb and her fingers there, and you can see it stays in place. I would be very worrisome the fact that I may potentially lose this. So when it comes to displaying the Bride, I'm not likely going to be displaying her with the eyeball, though I will say mad props to Star Ace for the fact that they would actually have included it. Next thing we'll have a look at is the board with the 3 nails on the end there. It's very nicely been sculpted. As you can see, there's the grain from the wood itself. And while you may not prick yourself, at least know this, that the nails themselves are slightly more softer plastic. I was a little worrisome that it was going to be a sharp plastic, and certainly worried as well that the nails, being so thin in size, that they would have likely broken. But it seems that Star Ace used a more softer material for the nails. So, like I said, there's a little bit of give. I don't know why you would want to be doing this a lot, but it's just for me to show you guys that there's a little bit of wiggle there, and you don't have to worry as much that they're going to be breaking off. Some nice detailing done to it, like it just looks like it's been broken off. A nice display piece, certainly for the Bride, although I think I'm probably going to be leaning more towards the next accessory that she comes included with. Yes, by far the coolest of the accessories, and a staple if you ask me when it comes to displaying the bride, is the sword that's handed to her by Hattori Hanzo. Supposedly claiming this is the greatest samurai sword ever forged, it would be really hard-pressed to argue the opposite of that, as certainly this sword dispenses many a revenging justice to the people that eventually fall wake of the bride. The blade itself has been painted nicely here in a metallic silver by Star Ace. The hilt has been done in both black and gold, and you can also see there's the little marker crest there at the top of the blade. It does fit into her hand, or as an opposing other place to put it, she does come included also with the sheath. The sheath has some additional gold artwork done to the side and to the top, and the sword just slides into place. Now, when you are sliding this in place, you obviously want to make sure you've got the right curvature of the sword. See how the two line up like that? It only really goes one way. If you twist it the other way, you're just going to be causing damage to the sword, and you definitely don't want that. I think maybe I could probably just display the sheath maybe in one hand, or maybe have it as if the bride is pulling and drawing the blade out with her other. It's certainly a nice welcomed touch. And again, I would feel like something certainly was missing if Star Ace left this off in its entirety, but thank goodness they actually did include it with the figure. The figure also gets 6 hands. We already looked at this hand right here. The eyes have it. Sorry, I had to. She does come included with the eye holding hand. There's a tongue twister. And she does also come with a pair of relaxed hands. Now, to be fair, though, when I did get her out of the packaging, the relaxed palms were already in the sockets of the forearms. I simply just popped those out, and I replaced them with the sword holding hands. And she does also come with the broader hand for holding the board with the knife. All the hands, by the way, are a more softer plastic, so if you feel like you can't get quite the hands around the accessory the first go around, just pry the fingers out of the way, the thumb out of the way. This one is suited for holding, like I said, the board with the 3 knives, of course, sticking out from that. And like I said, though, the hands that I've currently got in the sockets of the bride are best suited for, of course, holding the sword. And you can both put them in her hand. And you can actually still get the look of having her displayed with the sword being held in both of her hands. Simply just slide the hilt in one end and continue the journey all the way down until you've got the sword held in both of her hands. Probably a strong contender of how I'm going to display this figure. First thing we'll do is we'll have a look at the head sculpt for the bride. As you can see, she is sporting doll-rooted hair, which I think in a case for the bride is a much necessity, as her hair certainly gets tousled in the film. I do feel like it should have been a little bit longer though, but I appreciate the coloring and the fact that it's rooted in place so that you have a little bit of give. You can move and manipulate it if you want. A close-up look at the bride's face. She has a more sterner or neutral expression. Of course, this does change over the course of the film. Her face gets quite dirtied. She changes through different wardrobes, but they kind of kept more of a clean portrait for this particular release. The hair is a bit flat, so I'll probably do my best to kind of fluff that up a little bit, as I certainly do want this bride to have some much-needed curls. Again, I like the fact that she does have rooted hair instead of just simply plastic sculpted hair, which I don't think would work all that well for this particular release. Fans of Quentin Tarantino will know he's a big kung fu movie buff, so of course the inspiration for Bride's costume comes from the classic Bruce Lee film Game of Death, where Bruce Lee actually sports a very similar outfit to this. I kind of like that there was that nod to one of my all-time favorite Bruce Lee films, and having Bride sporting this yellow jumpsuit, right down to the fact that she does have the black striping down the sleeves, down the middle section, and running all the way down her legs. It does have a zip-up option, although if you do unzip it, it's a little harder to kind of come by. She doesn't actually have anything underneath all of that. I probably would not be running the gambit having the zipper running all the way down, but I think when it comes to displaying her, I'm probably going to just unzip it slightly so that the collar sits a little looser around her shoulders. She doesn't seem to have, though, like when you look at it, she seems like she has shoulder pads. It's actually just the sizing of her shoulders that kind of gives her that squared off portrait. The material itself is very thin and it almost has a bit of a stretch nature to it. It's very stretchy in the sleeves, stretchy in the legs, working their way all the way down to her sneakers, which, like the film, you'll apologize me if I don't actually say this, she does have some notable signatures on the undersides of her shoes. I love the fact that Star Ace would actually put that in there. And even though, again, you're probably not even going to display the figure with her feet out, the fact that they would put the small touches like this, as seen in the film, is still pretty cool. Now let's run through the bride's articulation. Her head rotates all the way around. Again, I like the fact that she does have rooted doll hair versus plastic hair, and her head moves up and down. Now, again, I'm just going to unzip this slightly because I wanted to show you. I'm going to try my best to not show too much off, certainly, but this whole section right here, I thought was going to be more softer plastic. It ends up actually being more of a solid plastic. It's very definitely solid here. I thought actually, like I said, it would have been a little bit closer to more a softer torso, but that's not actually the case. Just go ahead and zip this back up. Be a little decent after all. She does have upper torso ball joint. It feels almost like there's something encased under there, but I think the articulation runs just underneath her chest here, where it does give her the crunch up and down, and you can also rotate it back and forth. One thing that's good about this particular figure, and the fact that her costume is such a thin material, is the fact that you can quite easily move the bride's arms out almost beyond the point of a 90-degree angle. The arms move forward, the arms move back. She has a swivel on the bicep, a double bend on the elbow, I like that, and she does also have a rotation on the hands. You can hinge those also back and forth. Bride's articulation in her legs, almost a full splits. Well, you can pull off a full splits, though might be a little bit more uncomfortable unless Uma Thurman had perhaps her stunt double filling in to be able to perform such a feat. She does have a swivel on the top cut of her thigh, a nice double bend on the knee. You can see there's a hinge there and a hinge there. And for her jive-talking feet, she does have rotation back and forth and a hinge up and down. A little bit of an ankle rocker, so if you want to display her in a more dynamic pose, you might be able to pull that off. Although, if she does leave her foot at all, either one of them that is, you might have a little bit more of a difficult time getting the bride to stand. Thank goodness, though, the folks over at Star Ace do include that display stand, which I know at the beginning I did sort of comment that I didn't like the fact that the neck was in all black. But again, if you put the figure on top of this stand, it sort of does make a lot of sense now why they would have gone an all black neck as opposed to all yellow. Because of course, again, you would have yellow, yellow, and yellow, and that's a whole lot of yellow. I would have a difficult time pinpointing my favorite Tarantino film. Although if you look at his body of work versus some of the other directors that have made films, his list is a lot smaller. But each one of his films has that unique Tarantino vibe to it. His writing styles show through that even when you are watching a film, you sort of can pinpoint, yep, this is a Quentin Tarantino film. Some of my favorites in the past have certainly been Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Inglourious Basterds, to name a few, but Kill Bill sits pretty high on that list for me of personal favorites. Again, the hardest point would be pinpointing my all-time favorite Tarantino film. Kill Bill Volume 1, I will say, though, I prefer more than Kill Bill Volume 2. The two films initially, I think, were planned as one, but were split sort of in a Volume 1, Volume 2. But if you look at the two films, they feel very different and miles apart. The vibe of the first one, I think, is where it gets my attention the most. And it's nice to see the bride here represented as a 6-scale figure from Star Ace. The thing about looking at a figure like this and seeing how much damage and revenge she causes in the film makes me think her pristine white jumpsuit could have afforded some splattering of blood. I'm sure I could probably have pulled off that look myself, but it'd be interesting to see if we get a damaged version of the bride released by Star Ace in the same similar attire, just soaked and drenched in blood instead. The bride has various different outfits over the course of her avenging ways in Volume 1 and Volume 2. Maybe, you never know, we may get ourselves another issue of the bride released by Star Ace in a different attire. Again, I'd be welcoming the idea of getting a damaged version of the bride soaked in blood in all the splendor that Tarantino was able to present on the big screen for Kill Bill Volume 1. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Star Ace Kill Bill Volume 1, The Bride, 1/6 scale collectible action figure. And hopefully we may get ourselves other 6 scale releases of some of the other characters that make their rounds in Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. Keep your peepers, or in the case here, maybe keep your peeper, one missing eye, to this channel. It was a bad joke. To this channel, keep your peepers peeled because there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.